Hello and welcome to the MOJO podcast, part of Mike's Open Journal. Here we're going to be talking about mental health and all things related. That includes illness, wellness, stigma and support, and importantly some of your very own personal stories. Hello and welcome to the MOJO podcast and to episode 133, I believe. Thank you so much for continuing to download, subscribe, doing all of that wonderful podcast stuff. And hello to you guys that are watching on Dennis's or PsychReg's YouTube channel as well. So we're also available on multi-platforms for this episode. I hope you've had a good week. It's been fairly nice weather recently, so that's been really nice for me down in the south coast of the UK to have. Today I am delighted to let you know that I'm going to be joined by another new guest. So Dennis is going to come on, talk a little bit about his experience blogging, how he got started, why he got started, and how that's kind of grown into being involved with a range of different mental health campaigns and projects, and not just sharing his own knowledge, but also being able to be part of projects and campaigns and platforms that allow other people to share their experience and their knowledge as well, which is really, really amazing. We talk a little bit about having some of those campaigns growing over the last couple of years, and I guess giving some thought as to what we consider our mental health communities, our online communities, and how exactly that resonates with some of us as well. But it was awesome to sit down and hear about some amazing travelling and campaigns that Dennis has been part of. So thank you to Dennis for coming on and sharing his experience and his knowledge. And also thank you guys for continuing to be involved with the podcast. As always, if you would be interested in coming on in the future, sharing your own story, experiences, or have some recommendations for topics to be discussed in the future, you can get involved, you can find out about the podcast and all of the other stuff that I do over at mikesopenjournal.com. But thank you so much for downloading or listening or watching or viewing this episode. And I'm going to drop you guys into the conversation between myself and Dennis from a couple of days ago. I hope you enjoy it. And as always, please do remember you are not alone. There is a huge range of support out there. So make sure you do look at it and access it. And engage in conversations with those people that are around you as well. You really are not alone. Thank you for listening. How's your day been, Dennis?
It's been quite busy. I'm working from home, so I'm a mental health blogger, and I run this website called PsychReg. So on a regular basis, on a weekday, I just update my blog. I treat it like a day job, so I work from 9 till 5.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Does that help with kind of keeping the flow and the structure of having it as keeping it as a work-life thing as well?
Yeah, because it's starting January this year. I quit my job. I used to work for a PR agency in London.
Okay.
And because I was earning the same amount of money from my full-time job before and with my blog now,
yep.
So I was just like, you know what, I'll just work from home and manage my blog because I'm earning the same amount of money anyway, and I don't need to commute, I don't need to get dressed or anything like that. So I really treat it like work.
Apart from the dressing part.
Yeah. No. I don't mean that I'm working from home naked, but I'm working in my pajamas. And...
I think it's really interesting. It's really nice to hear someone that's got involved in blogging that's kind of being able to take that next step and being able to go, actually, this is what I want to spend my time doing, and you're able to make that kind of financially viable as well. Yeah. Was that like quite a sudden thing in January, or had you kind of recognised actually over a period of time, this is something I really want to do and spend more time on?
But basically when I started, because I've been blogging for 14 years now. I started as personal blogger, like just writing all about my opinions, and then later on I blog about travel, because when I was in my 20s, I love going to different countries on my own. I was a backpacker, so okay. I was just like chronicling my adventures, And then when I moved in the UK, I turned it into a mental health blog. But since I started blogging like 14 years ago, I always receive like sponsored posts,
Mm.
and that's where I charge. Right now, I do charge for my sponsored posts, and since I'm gradually gaining traffic,
Mm.
I get consistently lots of sponsored posts, and that's enough for me to earn the same amount as a full-time job.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And that's
Which,
what I'm gonna share on the mental health awards happening on
yes.
summer. Yeah.
Yes, so you're going to be coming along as one of our speakers and sharing kind of your experience and how
Yeah.
you've kind of grown your own
Yeah.
blog as well, which is going to be really interesting to hear a bit more then, but also to meet you because we've spoken a couple of times now,
Yeah.
and every time
It's
I'm looking
nice
at the
to
same
put
picture.
an actual face and a person that you just
Yeah,
meet online.
yeah, it's nice. Well,
Yeah.
I've had now. I've been really fortunate. Like I've met a few people that I've spoken to kind of on the podcast a couple of times and then get to meet at like certain meetups or events or things like that. So it's really nice when there's those opportunities to actually meet people and talk to them and kind of interact with them rather than just
Hmm.
kind of over the phone or by social media or whatever and
Yeah.
really engage with people. Um, it was interesting kind of jumping back a little bit when you mentioned the kind of starting off with the travel blog, like do you feel like what you write has changed since then, and also what countries did you go to? More importantly,
I've been to about 28 countries.
wow,
Yeah. So basically, when I started traveling, it was just Southeast Asian countries. I was originally from the Philippines, so
mm,
I was visiting Thailand, Malaysia, and all that. And then obviously when I moved here in the UK, EU countries are a lot closer. So
mm,
yeah, but I just got tired of doing travel blog because it's no longer my interest. Although traveling is still my interest, I find more connection writing about mental health than travel
mm.
blog. So I just deleted my travel blog.
I think sometimes you get to a certain stage as well, don't you, where you're like, I feel like I've kind of written everything I want to say about that particular topic for now. Like it might be something you go back to in the future, but
Yeah.
for now you're like, actually no, I'm quite happy um, with that. Like there have been certain times when I've had probably, I don't know, maybe months, but definitely a few weeks where I've
Mhm.
not posted anything. And I'm like, I kind of just feel like at the moment there's nothing new that I want to
Mm.
say. And it's quite nice, I think, working out what um, I guess what your schedule is going to be. Some people really
Mhm.
I've spoken to some people absolutely love the idea of like every Tuesday lunchtime I have a post that goes up and that's my like routine, that's my structure. And
Mhm.
that's really awesome to hear because it's so different to what I have. And it's
Mhm.
always really interesting to talk to people that have that different experience, I think, because it gives you an idea of what the scopes are. And it also gets you to think, why do I
Mhm.
do what I do, and am I happy with that? Like,
Mhm. Yeah,
it's
exactly.
yeah, it's really nice. I
Yeah,
don't know.
it's really the passion that
Mm,
drives you into, carry on with what you're doing.
mm.
Yeah.
What if you're happy to share? Like, what was the kind of the reason behind you becoming more interested in blogging about mental health rather than traveling?
Yeah, because my background is really in psychology,
Mm,
so I've always been interested about blogging. Because when I was growing up, I was an introvert. I don't really find it, how do I say? I don't really, I'm not really comfortable with a big crowd.
mm,
I'm okay talking with one, two people,
yeah.
but the bigger the crowd, I find it more intimidating.
Mm,
So when I was growing up, because I was born in the 80s, there was no internet, so I was
mm,
just keeping a journal. And then when I was in my 20s, there was already internet, and I started blogging.
mm,
So I don't have any lived experience of mental health, but when I went to uni, I did psychology, and when I came here, I also did my master's degree in psychology. So it's always been psychology. That's my background,
Oh
and so
wow.
yeah, kind of look into an opportunity for me to converge those two interests together, like
Mm.
blogging and psychology. And so that's why I started creating PsychReg. And a lot of the contents that I write for PsychReg is not really of my own writing.
Mm.
It's more of um, mental health stories from other people, and I find it quite interesting that they find it useful to vent out or to share their lived experiences of mental health. And I think ultimately what they're trying to achieve is that, there's a lot of stigma, there's a lot of stereotypes about experiencing mental health. And
Mm.
because of blogs, not just PsychReg, but because of blogs like PsychReg,
Mm.
they see it as an opportunity to address those stigma. Because essentially what they're saying is that it's a lot easier to express themselves about mental health through blogs rather than talk to their friends, because you can't be judged by anyone straight away if you just write about it, and you have the option to be anonymous. So that's how I get into blogging about mental health.
I think it's really nice to hear kind of how it started as well for you, kind
Yeah,
of writing your own points of view and
yeah,
then developing the website, which is essentially a resource, like you say, for other people to share their stories as well.
yeah.
Because I think there are occasions when there are, say, people like myself that have shared their own stories on their own site and like, oh yeah, I'll come and do guest posts or whatever. But I think it's a really nice resource for those people that, like you said, maybe aren't as comfortable or aren't ready or don't want other people to know it's them that are talking,
Hmm.
but do want to share their story.
Hmm.
And having sites and platforms like PsychReg where they can kind of share their story
Hmm.
kind of anonymously, and it's not, they don't have to have their own website, or they don't have to have all that kind of that tech background that we were talking about before we started recording, that sometimes we don't know what we're doing,
Yeah,
and actually just going, I've just, this is my story and I want to share it, but I don't want all the hassle of having to do all this other stuff, just
yeah.
can you share it for me? And I think platforms like that are so important to
Hmm.
kind of provide that opportunity for people.
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah, good thing you mentioned about that guest posting, because I think a lot of people just send articles because primarily they they can't be bothered, or they don't want to commit to
mm,
creating a blog, and then
mm,
after a year they will just leave it. But
yeah,
if they write they contribute to an existing website,
mm,
yeah, it's there, but they don't have to manage the blog, or they don't have to update it all the time.
yeah. I don't do so many now because often you'll feel like you're rewriting the same stuff.
Yeah.
But I've done a couple of guest posts for other sites, and when I
Mm-hmm.
look through at the basically like the archive, I guess that they build up,
Mm-hmm.
and you think if I was really struggling to be able to go to the site and know that there's a range of different illnesses, symptoms,
Mm-hmm.
people, backgrounds that I can kind of check and skim through and find someone that I really relate to,
Mm-hmm.
is really important and makes people realise like it's all very well us saying, oh, however many people or whatever percentage of people are affected by certain things, but
Mm-hmm.
it's so different when you can hear someone talk about their story.
Mm-hmm.
It resonates and it engages people in such a powerful way. I don't
Mm-hmm.
know what kind of have you had feedback from some of those guys that have either shared their stories or people that have read it at a later stage and have wanted to engage with you a bit more.
Yeah, actually, one of my regular contributors from New York, um, I think he's been sending me like articles every 2 weeks. His name is Maxwell Gutman,
Mm,
and I've actually invited him to be a speaker at the Mental Health Bloggers Conference, and I find it really humbling that one of the guys who writes for PsychReg to share about his mental health story flew all the way from America, and
Oh,
it was his
wow.
first time to go to Britain,
Mm.
and yeah, he found it interesting to come here and share his story in person, mental health story in person. Yeah.
Oh, that's amazing, and shows that's the power, I guess, of that online community that
Yeah.
I guess I've often spoken about it around social media, but when there are sites and platforms like you've got with PsychReg where you kind
Mm,
of create that sort of micro community just on your site, essentially, with the guest authors, with people coming and reading those various posts, and
mhm.
as you
Another,
mentioned, kind of how that
yeah,
can grow into
yeah.
events like the conference last year.
Mhm. Sorry.
I guess it's seeing that development, I guess, into like you had the conference last year and how that's kind of
Oh yeah.
grown in terms of building that community.
Oh yeah. But basically, when I started gaining traction from my website and from social media presence, I just realized that I could actually organize an event. So I first started organizing a conference in 2017.
Mm.
It was held in Romania. I found some contacts. It's Vasily Alexandre University of Bacau,
Okay.
and that was attended by about 350 people.
Oh wow.
And then the following year, 2018, I flew to Philippines to organize another conference,
Mm.
and that was attended by 549 people.
Whoa.
And then September 2018, I came back to Romania to organize the second conference with them.
Mm.
Yeah, and it was successful. And then, like what I've mentioned earlier, December 2018, I organized a conference solely for mental health bloggers, and yeah, that was quite successful because I did it on my own. There was no institution involved,
Mm.
but there was a guy from Scotland, Fraser Smith. He runs Get Psych, and he actually got involved. He's one of the speakers, and he's also one of the organizers.
Oh wow.
And this coming 31st of October until 2nd of November, Fraser and I are coming to Malaysia.
Mm.
We're collaborating with University Malaysia Sabah. So we're looking at organizing a conference for 500 people. It will be a 3-day event. We're just really excited about this because the campus of the university looks really lovely. Yeah, and
Oh.
it's my first time to organize an event in Malaysia. Yeah,
Oh. It looks like you're
and
getting to go to so many different places and talk about some really important topics.
yeah, yeah, because yeah, my passion is really into psychology, so I love organizing events, just to share the latest research and also as a form of networking,
Mm.
not only for researchers but also for university students and of course for people with lived experience. Yeah,
Mm.
that's our main goal.
And how did, particularly the mental health bloggers conference? So last year was the first year that ran.
Yeah, that was the first time. It was held 17th of December, which
Mm.
was actually my mom's birthday.
Oops.
Um, I know because she's in the Philippines, so I couldn't get to
Oh,
go
okay.
to her birthday anyway. So that's kind of my like
That's a good
um,
excuse.
yeah, a birthday gift for my mom. Although I don't know if she appreciates it. But anyway, yeah, it was successful because I'm not aware that there's actually a conference solely dedicated for mental health bloggers.
Mm.
In pretty much the same way that I don't know there's like an event, a mental health bloggers awards
Mm.
solely for mental health bloggers, like what you're doing.
Mm.
Yeah, so
That's what
uh,
I've found really interesting when we spoke briefly kind of previously on the phone about actually the kind of the events that we're putting together and recognising the importance of, it's great that mental health is included in other larger events, but
Yeah.
giving a little bit of time, recognition and respect to some really amazing people that are hugely passionate and are sharing very personal and emotional stories actually deserves a bit of attention.
Exactly.
And like you say, with the conference and the awards and having some specific events that really are focusing in on the amazing work and the amazing effort that people are putting into it, I think is really important and really awesome to see and to hear when you've spoken about actually kind of drawing in those people from different countries, from different areas, from different experiences, and utilising people like yourself with some really professional and well-educated knowledge is really cool to see as well, and really creating that community that I guess a lot of people talk about, but I'm not sure. I don't know. I guess it means different things to different people. But I think events like the conference really help to actually put that in place, and like we've said, actually giving people the opportunity to meet each other and to talk and really build those relationships and that support network that people are around as well.
And it's also a nice opportunity to learn from other mental health bloggers, because when you go to these bigger blogging events like the UK Blog Awards, you would meet other people, but the person that like people like who actually manage a mental health blog, it's kind of difficult to meet them because there's only a handful of them. And even though you could argue that it's all about blogging, but it's different if you're a travel blogger and then you're a mental health blogger. It's still different because there's a sensitivity and there's a human element involved in mental health blogging that you can't find on being a lifestyle blogger or a food blogger. So I think it's really important to create like an ecosystem solely for mental health bloggers, because if you're running a food blog, I guess you just have to disclose who's actually sponsoring your content. But with if you're running a mental health blog, there's an element of sensitivity involved, so you have to keep confidentiality of who the authors are of your blog, and also you have to put a disclaimer that you're not actually giving out psychiatric advice. And those are the things that you would not you were not able to find with food bloggers, that they could not relate to that, because it is blogging, but it's entirely a different niche.
It is. And like you say, particularly that side of the confidentiality of conversations, of story sharing, of really being very clear. I mean, there are some people, obviously, like yourself, that are very well educated and will have certain qualifications, but making it clear that predominantly the people that are sharing these stories and these experiences are people with lived experience and not people that are qualified in regards to mental health, physical health. It's personal experience and it's personal opinion, and being aware of that. And it is, it's a very different world to operate in. And like you say, things like making sure that on certain posts you've got trigger warnings, or that if you talk about a certain topic, have you signposted to some resources that might be helpful for someone that's interested. Like if you've put a post up that is about suicide prevention or awareness, the people that are more attracted to that might be potentially people that are struggling with that, and that's why they've clicked on that link. In that post somewhere, have you mentioned about Samaritans or seeing the GP, or and it's being mindful of some of that stuff that, like you say, do you have to consider that if you're talking about how good your local bowling alley is? yes, there are similar tasks, but like you say, it's a very different mindset, and it's a very different product, I guess,
Yeah,
essentially.
exactly. Because if you like have a food blog, I just keep on mentioning it because it's a lot easier to
Because you're
drive home
hungry,
my
that's
point.
why, isn't it?
No,
Because you're
it's a lot
hungry.
easier to drive home my point if I say food blog.
Yeah.
If you run a food blog and then you don't have to put a disclaimer at the end that this will actually make you fat.
Mm.
Like whereas with every mental health story that I publish, I put like this is not a professional advice,
Mm.
and if you need urgent help when it comes to your mental health experience, click this, and it
Mm.
will always take you to one of the resources where PsychReg keeps a directory of mental health providers because you'll never know like when someone is googling something about anxiety and they end up reading a mental health blog. I think you've
Mm.
got responsibility to take them where they should be. It's not just
Yeah.
about providing them with information about mental health, but take them to where they should seek help. I think
Mm.
that's the ultimate aim of mental health blogs. It's not just about
Mm.
a platform to share or to find mental health stories and live experience, but it's also where you could find help or where you could find networking with other people.
Mm.
Yeah.
It's that, oh, I don't know. It's that element, I guess, of the. I don't even know that I would consider that being professional. I think that's just realizing the impact of your content, realizing the impact and the importance of
Mhm.
what you're saying. Because actually, what you're saying is really important. Like, it could be offering a huge amount of support to someone. They know that actually they're not the only person struggling with that, or they resonate, or maybe they find your post really educational and informative, and actually, oh, I now know a bit more about borderline personality disorder or
Mhm.
OCD because I've read your post, and actually now I'm a bit more informed. But I need to realise that actually I'm informed on your experience
Mhm.
and what has helped you, and that could be very different for somebody else as well. And I think it's starting to get that across as well.
Mhm. And that's exactly what we're trying to achieve with PsychReg. We try to keep balance
Mm.
between mental health, lived experience, and um, articles written by academics and
Mm.
researchers. So we try to keep, I would say there's about 70-30, like
Okay.
70% lived experience and 30% um, written by academics and professionals.
It's a really nice balance as well because you've got, like you
Yeah,
say, it's those personal stories, but also an element of academic, professional
yeah,
support, signposting, referencing, and things like that are there as
yeah.
well. Kind of linked into that, I know you're involved with a few different projects and you've been part of different campaigns. Like it'd be interesting to hear maybe about some of those as well, and kind of how that started or how that's linked into kind of you being able to maybe talk about
Yeah.
blogging and mental health in areas that maybe wouldn't always have spoken about those.
hmm aside from the blog, I've also found two collaborators from America, they're
Mm.
professors
Mm.
from Florida, Dr. Bernie Wilkinson and Dr. Richard Marshall. I think it was over a year ago when I got in touch with them and we decided to collaborate and run a podcast. So it's a weekly podcast where they talk about a range of issues on mental health, and their approach, although they're academics, their approach is just to make it an easily digestible content.
Mm.
So we called it PsychReg Podcast, and there's a link that you can find on. You can actually see it on the homepage of PsychReg blog.
Yeah, I was going to
The,
say you can. It's through the. You can find it through the main menu as well, can't you?
yeah,
If
yeah,
you're looking there, so.
yeah, you can find it. And also, I've also launched an open access initiative. So basically, it's a journal where academics from different universities could write their articles. It's more of it's more of an academic research. And the reason why I decided to do that is that for those who are not aware, it costs a lot of money to publish in an academic journal. And sometimes, even though it's already published there, it has a paywall that you have to, for you to read the article. And I think that it's a bit unfair to operate that way. I think that information about psychology, mental health, and well-being, whether in the form of a blog post or whether in the form of an academic journal, should be openly accessible for everyone. And I don't think that researchers should pay anything for publishing their work, because but basically what I'm trying to say is that it's possible to run a journal without charging too much. I managed to do it. I'm self-funded. I get money to host PsychReg Journal of Psychology through PsychReg, and it's possible to do that. So I think I have to be very grateful for those academics who trusted me to publish their work. Yeah. So those are the things that I'm involved at. I'm sorry.
No, I like the long answers. I get to sit back and like just listen to what's going on. It's really nice. No, it is interesting you mentioned that, because I've found before that kind of the opposite, because I'm acting as the reader. There have been times when I've seen links to articles or research on social media, and you kind of click on the link and it pops up, and you have to have like a subscription account to be able to access it. And not all the time, but some of those times, that is, like you've mentioned, actually it's academic research that relates to mental health, which is why I've clicked on it, because otherwise I probably wouldn't have bothered. And then when you hit a paywall of like, you have to be subscribed, and it's not a lot, but even if it's a couple of £1 a month, I'm like, well, yeah, but I just want to read this article. And actually the access to that being limited I do understand why it's there. I just don't particularly agree with it. And it's difficult, because I think actually we're trying to promote more people talking, more people listening, and you're kind of making it more difficult for people to access potentially really important and really quite poignant information that could kind of change or refocus the way that we think about a really important topic.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, that's what we're trying to address that gap with a journal, and also with a podcast, and also with a blog.
Oh, awesome! So there's lots of stuff going on.
Yeah, and also aside from those three, I'm also looking for people to collaborate with in organizing an event. Recently, I've met two guys, Prash and Dev. They're running a menpowerment group.
Okay.
Basically, it's a networking for men, and helping them to share their mental health struggles. And I like it because it's very specific. It's not just all about mental health stories, but it's also about men. And on the 5th of April, we're organizing a networking event in London. So it's more of a dinner networking, really. So yeah. I also get involved with those events.
I've seen a couple of times sort of the information that you shared, it's either on the website or social media, around that kind of promotion of men's mental health and encouraging that conversation, being aware of support. And that's really cool to see. I think it's something that's gradually grown over the last year or so, where there is that real recognition of actually, okay, yes, mental health struggles affect people of all genders, but there's not that men are affected more, but I think they're less likely to come forward and seek help and talk about it. And for that reason, we do need to have projects and campaigns that target and focus on men, and encourage them to seek the support that would be useful or beneficial to them as well.
Yeah, that brings me to mention Men's Radio Station, which I also work for. Basically, I manage their social media, and I go to their London office in Covent Garden every Sunday. Just basically just help them running the show. I'm usually at just on one of the rooms looking after the guests. Um, and the reason why I got involved with that is I share the same goal with them that, you know what, like there's a lot of, it's a good thing that we're talking now about mental health, because I think 4 or 5 decades ago, there's really not much of an open conversation about mental health. But even though we have already progressed from that stage, there's still an unheard group, sort of an unheard group. The men, like what you've mentioned earlier, men usually that they're kind of hesitant to tell their stories about mental health. So it's important that we actually acknowledge the struggles of this group of men. So yeah, that's why I'm involved with Men's Radio Station and also with Menpowerment.
Oh, that's awesome. It's really cool to hear about a range of different projects, and actually how you kind of started off when we were talking. It's that idea of, wow, I really liked blogging and I was travelling, so I spoke about travelling, and then I was really interested in mental health, so I started talking about that. And to hear how that's led to being involved with doing more projects yourself, but collaborating with other people, and now being in the position where you get to sit at home in your pajamas and work, and there is that opportunity for people to make their blog or whatever they're involved with. You could make that a part-time or a full-time job if you really wanted to.
Yeah, it is my full-time job.
Yeah, you can get involved with different projects and different campaigns. And again, it's not going to be for everyone. Some people will just want to write their one post and submit it to sites like PsychReg, or they might just want to have their own blog. But I think it's really nice to see there's a growth of events, of campaigns and projects to get involved with. And like you said, I don't know, about a few decades, I reckon just probably 5 years ago, I don't know that would have been possible. So it's been really cool to kind of see that growth happen, and for there to be more opportunities for people to get involved in campaigns. And particularly, I always really like seeing the work that like Time to Change have started to do with their champions, and particularly the young people. And it'd be really cool to see other charities or organisations kind of get involved with that a little bit more and have their own thing going on. And like when you were talking about, actually we've now got these events that run and people can come along and meet each other. Like, how awesome is that? And it's building up those opportunities for people to get engaged and involved.
Yeah, because even though like as mental health bloggers, some of us may not be suffering from any mental health, but it's kind of therapeutic, to blog, because in a way it's also a form of self-expression. And that's why I actually get from blog. It's a form of self-expression. I'm better off expressing myself through web design and through tweaking my website. That's what I'm good at, rather than I told you I'm quite an introvert, so I'm not really as efficient as other people with expressing myself in a bigger crowd, but I'm quite skilled expressing myself through blog as a medium.
It's finding what works for you, isn't it?
Yeah,
I think that's the way forward.
It's actually the design element of blogging that I find therapeutic, because I'm quite autistic when it comes to font. I'm actually one of those people, like when I see a font on a website, I could identify that, and I could even identify the font size, and I could. I'm really obsessed with fonts. I like websites with good fonts, and I like designing websites.
It's really interesting to hear like the way that it's kind of that thing that's really positive for you, but it could also be like a real negative, I guess, if something doesn't appear in a certain way or doesn't look as you think it should.
Yeah, but I love the challenge because over the years that I've been blogging, I've learned about HTML,
Mm.
and I find it quite therapeutic. You know, like when you're struggling to achieve a certain look for your blog and you manage to do it, I really feel a sense of achievement.
Oh, that's awesome. It's cool to have that
Yeah,
pride as
yeah.
well, I
I
guess.
think I
And
think yeah, yeah. That's the therapeutic side
mm,
of blogging to me. You know,
mm.
like it allows me to express myself. It allows me to, feel a sense of achievement at the end of the day.
That's a really nice way, I think, to kind of
Hmm.
round us off there. I think if people wanted to find out a bit more information about yourself, Dennis, or PsychReg, or any of the stuff that's going on, where would be like the best place for them to go or to find out information about those things?
Yeah, basically just Google PsychReg, that's PSYCHREG, or Google my name. It's quite a long name. I have a double-barreled name. It's Dennis Relojo-Howell. So yeah, just Google that and then you'll find information on me. I'm active on Twitter, but I don't use Facebook a lot. I don't have an Instagram account either.
I really struggle with Facebook at the moment. It's like,
Yeah.
it's just really dropping down. It's basically what I use to keep in contact with school friends, and that's
Yeah.
pretty much all I'm using it for now.
Mm.
It feels like a real effort to post anything there because I'm just like, oh, I'm just not really that fussed. I'm not checking it. So, um,
I don't
awesome.
know if it's age, because before when I was on my 20s, I'm really active on Facebook, but
Yes,
it's
same.
not for me anymore.
No, I just,
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know. I don't,
I,
yeah,
I
I'm not
I
sure
already got
why.
I think I already got over with like posting where I had for dinner or places I've been.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm not going to lie. I still do that, but I do
Well,
that on Twitter. I don't do it on Facebook, and I don't
yeah.
really. I couldn't really tell you why I do it on one and not on the other. I'm not sure. I just
I have a theory though, because it's easier to do that on Twitter, because a lot of people who you connect with on Twitter are
mm,
not going to judge you that you're showing off or that you're bragging because they
yeah,
haven't met you in person.
yeah, that's true.
Whereas it could be misinterpreted in Facebook when you show that you've been on holiday. If you share that with the people you know on Facebook, they're
Mm,
likely to misinterpret that as showing off.
maybe,
And
maybe.
yeah, and I try to avoid that on Facebook.
Well, it has been lovely to sit down and have a chat with you. And hopefully, everyone that listens and downloads this episode, but also potentially watching the YouTube version that Dennis is going to put up of this as well, has enjoyed listening into the conversation. And if you do want to find out a little bit more about Dennis, I'll put some links in the description as well if you haven't managed to
Thank
note
you.
those down as we've gone through. But thank you so much for coming on and for
My
sharing a bit
pleasure.
about your experience and everything that's gone into it. And I also look forward to seeing you in July when you're going to be one of our guest speakers at the Mental Health Blog Awards as well.
Yeah, exactly. I'm looking to have to talk to everyone in person. Basically, I'll be talking about the same thing, but it's more of technical stuff, how to manage your blog, and hopefully I get to inspire you that there's actually a potential for you to turn your hobby of blogging
Mm,
into a full-time career.
mm.
So hopefully you get to join us at the Mental Health Blog Awards this summer.
Awesome stuff. Thank you so much for coming on, and I'll talk to you again very, very soon.
Thank you.